Hi, Josh here from the channel ZZZ Giant Awake and the Recklessly Skeptical podcast, and it is Thursday on the Breakfast Club. I'm filling in for Bionic Dance because she had something else happen today where she's not able to make a video. So here I am. So here we are today talking about rights and privileges. I will link a couple of videos in the description box, the one from Monday and also the one that Got That Funk talked about in his video, the one he linked from DevChelle from a couple years ago. So I'm going to address a couple of videos from earlier in this week first, and then I'll get to the meat and potatoes that was Got That Funk's commentary on rights and privileges. I thought that Nathan Brandon Masters did a good job with his video. I guess the only thing I'd like to add in, even though I don't think this is what he was saying, is not all feminists. Some feminists do act that way, I admit, but not all feminists. And really, the rest of his video stands really well on his own. With Wayne Watley Jr.'s video, he went on a rant. I kind of am doing the same thing. I didn't have much time to prepare because normally I'm on Saturday, but and Bionic Dance will be on Saturday. Wayne Watley Jr. said that something about the rules of law are based on the ideas of the majority, and that's absolutely not true. Most of the laws are in place. Most of the reason why rights are in place, why they exist, is to protect the minority. It's to protect the less powerful from the more powerful, and again, in many situations, that's the majority. He also mentioned that the police, white cop versus black unarmed person in the media makes the news, and I think that that's actually just of the news to do. And the reason why I think that the media is correct in doing so is that they have the responsibility of letting us know what our government is doing. And any police involved shooting should be reported on, or should at least be accounted for in the news. Now, I do have to admit that I have some biases. I am a philosopher and have read many books on philosophy. I tend to favor liberal philosophy, and also I am a student for legal studies. I'm in school to become a paralegal student. So you may have to take what I say with that information, and you may think I'm biased, and I might be. But I do have to disagree with Got That Funk when he said rights are essentially just a figment of our imagination. Now, rights are definitely conceptual, and we conceptualize what the law is and what the law means and how to interpret it, but rights, as well as being conceptual, are real. They have a real effect on the real world. It'd be essentially the same thing as saying the economy is just a figment of our imagination. The economy has real world effects. I can take my money, and which is, again, given value through fiat, which is just essentially faith, and I purchase paper stocks, which I actually don't purchase paper anymore. I purchase electronic copies of stocks, and then those copies of stocks grow or lose value based on how they do compared to other competitors in the market. Now, that all is just fiat. There's nothing there besides faith. And same with rights. When I say I have a right, it's fiat. I expect that if my house is broken into, I can call a police officer and they'll do their investigations, and if they can find a suspect that has all of the elements for prosecution, that they will prosecute that said person. I have that right to call upon the police and have them do an investigation. So when it comes to our constitutional rights in the United States, and other countries have constitutions too, the way that it's conceptualized is that we, the people, have power. We don't all necessarily have rights per se, but we do have the ability to do what we seek to do with our mind and our hands. And what we've found in government is that we have the ability to overturn governments or force governments to do what we want, but we want to have a society, a structure of some sort in order for us to have some structure in our lives. Really, we need to have structure in government and structure in lives in order to have insurances that when I go out and do something and I work a job every day, that if I invest wisely or do what I'm supposed to, I'll have the ability to retire with dignity. These sorts of assurances have to be available for me to be willing to get up and do the things I do, contribute to the economy, and build a life. If I don't have those assurances, then they don't do anything. And the reason why I have faith that those insurances will be assured is that I see people take forms and complaints and go through the justice system every day. Maybe not federal holidays and whatnot, but you get what I'm saying. So because of rights having a real world effect, which is my confidence in doing stuff with my day and trying to build wealth and being a decent person, because I have faith in those things, I'm able to take action that I would otherwise be unable to do, which is a real consequence of rights, conceptually. Now, to draw back in, I don't know why rights would have to be always enacted equally. I think what we strive for is the equality. Like, equality is a virtue that we strive for in government. Just because we don't have it yet, and we probably will never have it perfectly, it doesn't mean that rights are all of a sudden gone. In the context of me being an American and being able to evoke the Constitution and all of the other rights that have been given to me by local and federal and state governments, I lost track of the sentence. So, because I'm able to do those things now, because I'm able to evoke those things, then those rights become real. And they don't have to be perfect to be real, to have an effect. And again, like virtue ethics, it's be like saying honesty isn't a real thing, because honesty is not something I can taste, touch, feel, and do whatever. But I can tell when I'm dealing with an honest person by the interactions that I have. And in the same sense, I can deal with the government and the honesty that it has. In philosophy, the idea of a government is that where the government is acting virtuously in the role of government, it's acting lawfully. Where it is not acting virtuously in the role of government is where it's acting unlawfully. And the government can definitely act unlawfully. It's made up of human characters. No governor or mayor or whatever, or sheriff, they're all human beings. And are they flawed human beings? Yes. And so those flaws also conceptually would have to carry over into their role as in society. So that's kind of going to be the end of what I talk about with rights. I could go on with this subject for hours and hours. Again, legal student here. Now, as far as privileges go, they definitely exist. They absolutely, unarguably exist. You have to either turn a blind eye to the subject or be willfully ignorant to think that privilege doesn't exist. DevChelle, the reason why I included his video in the description is because I want to encourage everybody to watch it. He's absolutely right. I would think and hope that what my interaction with the government is the same interaction value that everybody has with the government. I have a pretty favorable opinion of the government and of police, but I can see why people of color would be discouraged by what's going on in criminal justice nowadays. And I think that there's lots of flaws in our criminal justice system, and they need to be addressed. But I think that those things need to be addressed legislatively and thoroughly. I think that legislature needs to address the training in police. I think legislature needs to appoint an accountability department for police, and so that way they can create some sort of standard for what happens after a police shooting and by what merits they judge by, and that they don't have a relationship with that particular police department prior. Because as a prosecutor, it's hard to go after a police officer when you know their name and they've helped you in several cases. And I don't think that any police officers are going out to do harm intentionally. There may be exception to that, but I think in general, police officers are good people trying to abide by and help enforce the law. And I think that most prosecutors are the same way. But it gets frustrating the way that it's enacted. Definitely privilege exists with our government and with people we interact with, and I mainly was just talking about government privilege, or privilege that's given to us by representatives of our government. But it's a work in progress, just like my YouTube video making. Thank you guys, that's all I got.